What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel for another episode in the Ask Me Anything series. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend and also happy Remembrance Day, especially to all the veterans out there. As always, when it comes to these videos, you guys absolutely killed it with the questions, so I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to each and every one of you who took the time to come up with a question and leave it on the post. Even if your question isn't featured in this episode, just know I read every single one, and I appreciate all of you guys. And if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year round, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're getting super close to 81,000, and with that all being said, let's go ahead and start the episode off with the first question from Spectral Wolf, who says, with the seasons other players are having and all the attention on the Caps has gone to Ovi, Connor McMichael has quietly been one of the best goal scorers in the league, and nobody is talking about him. He keeps this up and he could be in the conversation for Team Canada. I'm not so sure if he'll be a serious contender for Team Canada, but he's definitely having a fantastic start to the season, already 10 goals and 16 points in just 14 games. If the NHL had a Most Improved Player award, I know there's a lot of people out there, including myself, that wish they would implement one. At this point in the season, Connor McMichael would probably be the front runner for that award. McMichael was a late first-round draft pick by the Washington Capitals in 2019, and it definitely has taken him a little while to get going. Early on, he was up and down between the NHL and the American Hockey League, but it definitely looks like he's figured things at the NHL level out, and he's definitely developed into an extremely important player for the Washington Capitals. It's pretty crazy the kind of production the Washington Capitals have been getting from the top of their lineup this season. Obviously, like we've been talking about, Connor McMichael, and like you mentioned, Alexander Ovechkin is getting a lot of the attention when it comes to the Washington Capitals, and he's been red hot lately. But even outside of Ovechkin and Connor McMichael, you have somebody like Dylan Strome on pace to have a career year. I don't think he's getting near enough credit for what he's been able to do so far this season. He has been one of the better centermen in the entire league. And also somebody like Alexi Protas, who through 14 games is already up to 5 goals, which is just 1 goal shy of tying his previous career high of 6. This kind of offensive production from him has really came out of nowhere. I don't think he's a guy many people viewed as somebody to have a ton of offensive upside, but so far this season, he has shown that he is capable of being productive in a bigger role, playing along some talented players in the top 6. His ice time is up almost a full minute per game from last season, and similar to what I said about Connor McMichael, if the NHL had a Most Improved Player award, Protas would probably be another player like McMichael who would be one of the front runners for that award right now. Moving on now to the next question. This one comes from Samuel Paradis, who says, I know you love to have a Red Wings question in there. Who's been your most surprising and disappointing Red Wing so far? The most disappointing? I mean, take your pick. There's a handful of guys who have been very underwhelming to start the season. Really, the entire team is struggling to score and struggling to generate offense right now, outside of the top line, who haven't been fantastic by any means, but they've been fine. If I had to pick one player who I would say has been the most disappointing, I'd probably go with Vladimir Tarasenko. Just 2 goals and 3 points so far in 13 games. That's just not good enough from a guy that the Red Wings signed to a 2-year deal with a cap of $4.75 million per season. Obviously, Tarasenko isn't a guy that anyone expects to score 30 plus goals a season anymore, but he still had 23 goals and 55 points last season, split between the Senators and the Panthers. Even if he was just scoring at around that same pace again this season with the Red Wings, that would be massive for a Red Wings team that is in desperate need of offense right now. And it's not like he's very good defensively. He's not going to go out there and play tough matchup minutes or kill penalties. So when he's not producing offense, he's really not all that impactful of a player. Really, for the most part this season, he's been a non-factor for the Red Wings. So he's my pick for the most disappointing Red Wing so far. And my pick for the most surprising, this is a no-brainer. It has to be Cam Talbot, who so far has been one of the better goaltenders in the entire NHL. And I would say early on this season has been the Red Wings' most valuable player. He's 4-2-1 with a save percentage of .926. Just imagine where this team would be right now without Cam Talbot. He has definitely been their saving grace so far this season, and hopefully soon they can start giving him some more offensive support, because I'd be lying if I said I expected Cam Talbot to keep up this level of play all season long as a guy who's 37 years old. The next question we have comes from Laffy Productions, who says, who are your top 3 candidates for the Calder right now? It's really up for grabs, especially with Torch showing he's not afraid to bench Michkov. Even with the recent healthy scratches, I would definitely still have Michkov in my top 3 candidates right now, along with Logan Stankoven. And then I think that third spot's really up in the air. You could make an argument for Maxim Slipikov of the New York Islanders. Lane Hudson is another guy you could make a case for. He's over a half point per game despite not playing on Montreal's top power play unit. I definitely think you have to mention Dustin Wolf as well, goaltender for the Calgary Flames. He's cooled off a little bit from his red-hot start to the season, but his numbers as a whole still look really solid. So that's where I'm at with my top 3 candidates for the Calder right now. Michkov, Stankoven, and then one of Slipikov Michkov, Hudson, or Dustin Wolf. And I don't think we can count out Macklin Celebrini at this point either. He's only played in 4 games, but he's looked lethal since returning to the lineup. He's got 3 goals and 4 points in those 4 games. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised at all if Celebrini's able to get himself back in the Calder Trophy race come the end of the season, despite the amount of time he's missed. Moving on now, we have a perfect follow-up to that question from 37 Willdog, who says, thoughts on the Michkov situation in Philly? As a fan, I want to believe that Torts is doing the right thing here, and Michkov was starting to struggle a bit, especially 5-on-5, but it's still frustrating to not see him out there. I definitely understand the frustration from Flyers fans about Matvei Michkov being a healthy scratch the last couple of games. The Flyers haven't looked the greatest so far this season. They're likely not going to be a playoff team, but at least with Michkov in the lineup, Flyers fans have something to be excited about every single night. So when he's not playing, obviously that's a bit of a drag for Flyers fans, but I really wouldn't look too much into this. I think if it was any other coach in the league doing this, it wouldn't be as criticized as Tortorella's decision to scratch Michkov for a couple of games has been. I feel like because it's Tortorella, and Tortorella is one of those hard-nosed coaches who has came out publicly and spoke against the Michigan, which is a move we've obviously seen Michkov attempt this season, and I think people are just looking way too much into this because of that. It's not like when Michkov's been in the lineup, Tortorella has been misusing him and, playing him in a fourth-line role, not giving him enough power play opportunities, and trying to turn Michkov into something that he isn't. When Michkov's been in the lineup, I think Tortorella has been using him correctly. He's been a top 6 guy for the Philadelphia Flyers, a top line guy really all season long, but like you said in your comment, he has started to struggle a little bit recently, especially at even strength, so I don't think it's the end of the world that Tortorella decided it would be best for Michkov and for his development to sit in the press box and kind of get a different perspective on things for a couple of games. This is something that the Anaheim Ducks did on a regular basis last season with Leo Carlsson to help ease him into the NHL. The NHL schedule can obviously be very grueling, and it's something that a lot of these young guys have never had to deal with before. Nobody really made a big deal about it last season when the Ducks did it with Leo Carlsson, so I don't think we should make a big deal about it when John Tortorella does it with Matvei Michkov. It's not like he said Michkov was playing terrible and he has to be held accountable, so he's a scratch. John Tortorella said it was for developmental reasons, so I really don't have a problem with it, and for anyone that does, take a deep breath because it has already been confirmed that Michkov is drawing back into the lineup tonight for Philly against the San Jose Sharks. Moving on now to the next question. This one comes from Jared, who says, if Nashville continues to lose, do you think they'll truly rebuild as GM Barry Trotz has stated, or will he just try a quick retool? We talked a little bit about this in the video I made on the Nashville Predators early last week. I said in that video that I thought maybe Barry Trotz could have just been bluffing by saying this to try and light a fire under this team and really get them going, because looking at the type of contracts they have on the roster, it would be very difficult for them to enter a full-on rebuild. Philip Forsberg, 4 years left at $8.5 million. Roman Josi still has 4 years left at over $9 million. Stamkos obviously 4 years left at $8 million, and Saros' massive extension doesn't even kick in until next season. Brady Shea is another guy, obviously in year 1 of a 7-year deal with a cap hit of $7 million, and all of the players I just mentioned have some form of no move clause or modified no trade clause, so I do kind of find it hard to believe that Barry Trotz is already going to start planning out the rebuild if they don't turn it around soon. I think he's going to give this team a lot longer of a leash and a lot more time to figure it out than he's letting on, because I really don't feel like he has much of a choice. Moving on now to the next question. This one comes from Charles Bob for you, who says, after Sam Montembeault had a hot start, he has cooled off. Who do you think could be a new dark horse candidate for Team Canada in net for the Four Nations face-off? I definitely still expect Montembeault to get some consideration for one of the 3 spots in net for Team Canada, just because there really isn't many great options. Heading into the season, we knew Team Canada was likely going to have, the worst goaltending situation of all 4 nations that are going to be in this tournament, but it really feels like as this season goes on, as we get closer and closer to the rosters being announced, Canada's goaltending situation just gets worse and worse. Like, all the guys that we thought were going to be top candidates are having pretty bad years, like Binnington, save percentage below .890, same with Sam Montembeault, Stuart Skinner below .890 as well, Aiden Hill below .890 as well, Darcy Kempers is below .900, Connor Ingram, that's a guy who some people viewed as a dark horse heading into the season, he's having a terrible year, a save percentage below .880. Maybe it's my Red Wings bias talking a little bit here, but I honestly feel like one of the front runners based on the way guys are playing so far this season has to be Cam Talbot. He has been far and away the best Canadian goaltender in the NHL so far this season. Maybe he doesn't end up being the starting goaltender, but I'm definitely expecting him at this point to get one of those 3 spots in net for Team Canada, and he's somebody that I really didn't even consider would be an option for Team Canada in net coming into the season. This next question comes from Bucket Michael, who says, are you in any fantasy leagues this season? If so, how are your teams doing? And also, really appreciate the kind words, and I'm glad you've stuck with the channel for that long. I wanted to quickly answer this because every week when I make the post for the Ask Me Anything episodes, I've been getting a lot of fantasy related questions. I'm actually not in any fantasy leagues this year. I'm not sure why. Me and my friends have had a league we've done every year for like the past 7-8 years, except for this year. I kind of just forgot about it this year. So I don't have any fantasy teams this year, but I'm definitely curious to hear about your guys' fantasy teams. So let me know how you're doing in fantasy hockey down below in the comments. Who's been your best player on your team? Who's been your most surprising player? All that kind of stuff. And now finally finishing up the episode with a question from Avro, who says, with the Oilers actively looking for a top 4 right-hand D-man, who do you think they will target the hardest realistically? Links to Duck Cam Fowler, Islanders Scott Mayfield, anyone else that I'm unaware of. Cam Fowler's actually a left shot defenseman, and he has a cap of $6.5 million, so I'm not too sure if he would be a legit option for the Oilers. I have been seeing people float around the idea of Scott Mayfield, who's a big right shot defenseman, but I don't really like the fact that he has 6 years left on his contract. You know, a cap of $3.5 million isn't anything crazy, but is that somebody that the Oilers would want to commit to for the next 6 years, and would he even be that much of a needle mover for them? Mayfield has some decent defensive numbers, but over the last few seasons, he has taken on a much lesser role with the Islanders compared to when he averaged a career high in ice time in the 2022-23 season. He was playing 21 minutes a game. Fast forward to this season, he's playing under 18 minutes a game. Somebody that I think would be a beautiful fit for the Oilers is Connor Murphy of the Chicago Blackhawks. He's a big right shot defenseman who is signed through this season and next at a reasonable cap hit of just $4.4 million. Over the last few seasons on some really bad Blackhawks teams, Connor Murphy has consistently put up really good defensive numbers in a top 4 role. He's somebody that can do a serviceable job killing penalties as well. If I'm the Edmonton Oilers and the Blackhawks are open and willing to moving Connor Murphy, that's definitely somebody that I'd pursue right now. So that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Ask Me Anything series. Like I said at the beginning of the video, as always, huge shout out and thank you to each and every one of you who participated and sent in a question this week. If you made it all this way to the end of the video and you enjoyed yourself and you want another episode next Monday, then be sure to leave the video a like. That is the best way to let me know that you enjoyed, and it does help with the videos a ton. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year round, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all again soon.